30 pounds of thrust and a plane weighs 25 pounds, you can sit there and hover there and then over the runway and use the helicopter. And you're in fourth place. Take off, start going up. Exactly as I discussed earlier. Okay, on the flight line.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, I'm going to fix it.
It's all yours, sir. Good afternoon. Well, like you've already heard with regard to the Air National Guard guys, all of the policemen that are here today are actually on duty also, so anything can happen. We're a little bit spontaneous. Those of you that know what calls for service.
Good job.
500E is only 1 year old. It's piloted by a guy by the name of He's the pilot for that. It's actually one of 4 helicopters that we have in our fleet. And pilot Miska has been with the department for about 22 years, so he's been around quite a while. I personally know his dad was in law enforcement in Orange County also, so he comes from a law enforcement family. And he is with the helicopter.
Fell out of here.
Okay, basically what Mike is doing, we're having a little bit of difficulty with the technical part of this thing. He's just really kind of demonstrating some of the tight maneuverability, the things that the helicopter can do for us. You can see that he's hovering. A lot of times the officers need a little help on the ground, and they can't see as well as the helicopter can from their view in the sky. So they'll just hover over and look, and they might tell us that our suspect is going here, our suspect is hiding under a tree, he's on top of the house, any number of things. But they'll just sit on top of a scene, and they'll tell us what's happening. This is what they're doing here. They're just kind of sitting there where they can see what's going on without being in harm's way or having to run around trees and garages and avoid dogs in people's backyards. You can see what he's doing right now is flying sideways. The helicopters will do some things that you don't see in traditional fixed-wing aircraft. They'll fly sideways, they'll fly backwards. They don't like to go upside down, but it's rumored that they can do that on occasion also. One of the things that the helicopters will do for us is when we have cars that we need to stop, we might be in pursuit of them with red lights and sirens. You've probably seen those on the news. You might have seen them in person. But they'll get on top of those things and they'll keep an eye on it. They'll tell us where the intersections are clear. They'll tell us where there's traffic. They'll give us a lot of information that we might not be able to see while we're chasing after the car because we're focusing on driving and we're focusing on keeping an eye on the car in front of us. So what they will do is they will tell us by the radio, well, you're coming up on a stale red. There's cross traffic approaching the intersection. They'll give us all kinds of information so that we don't get into a crash and people get hurt. If you happen to have just seen what he did, none of these airplanes out here can do that. They can't throw it in reverse and go the other way without turning around. They got to turn the whole thing around. So we call this a pedal turn. And then what Mike's going to do is a quick turnaround so he can change directions. And what you'll see him do is go to the other end of the runway and he'll do the same maneuver. One of our SWAT guys And then Officer Dave Taylor, he's one of our canine guys. He's been a canine officer for 14 years. He's been on the department for like 24 years. And they're going to hop on the helicopter, head down toward the other thing that's taking place at the other end of the airport and see if they can't help out down there. And when they lift off, you're going to see that they're kind of standing on the skids. They're not really just standing there. They're harnessed onto the helicopter. They have a special harness that's made especially for that dog, that's made to interact with the handler, so they're kind of together. So if the handler goes, I think the dog goes. And if the dog goes, the handler goes. And he's only been on the street for a couple of weeks, so he's a pretty nervy canine to be able to get on that helicopter like that in just a couple of weeks. I think if you were watching closely, you could see that the dog's tail was wagging. I think he kind of likes it. Either that or Officer Taylor, I'm not sure. If you look across there and that looks like your car, I'm sorry. Let's hope he stops here pretty quick. Yeah, he's not stopping. He really is taking off, isn't he? It says, okay, it's time to get me again. And until that happens, the dog will just behave himself. That's a good boy. Very good. That was Marco and his handler, Mike Carroll. Then the next gentleman coming up is Jeff Barney. He's been a handler for is stationary. He's supposed to come and just bark at him. That tells the handler that the bad guy is close by, and that tells him where to come to because he can just follow the bark. I didn't see that. That must have hurt. There we go. The canine handlers train every day. You can see that the dog is kind of a fun-loving animal. So they train all the time to make sure that they behave as they're intended to. What you see here is the dog says, well, maybe I can get a little closer than I'm supposed to, or whatever. So what the handlers will do is they train every week, they train every day, they train as a group every other week. They spend a lot of time at the training facility to make sure that the dogs are behaving and conducting themselves like they're supposed to. Okay, he's going to do what we call a courage test, because now Officer Smith is going to really challenge the dog, and the dog is not supposed to be intimidated by the behavior of the guy he's going after. He's supposed to fight anyway. I don't think that's going to be a problem. They're going to have to